All right, welcome back to the Run.down post-game show. I am Sam. I am joined by Schwinn and Jeff. The Knicks complete another thrashing of the Cleveland Cavaliers with a score of it is a constant thrashing of them. 109 to 91.
What's a constant thrashing, Sam, is you on the timeline when there's Cam Reddish, when there's some Cam Reddish hate going around. That's a constant thrashing.
It's like him and Tyrese. As soon as I see Cam Reddish do one stupid thing, I'm like, all right, these two clowns are gonna be just shitting on his wife on the
timeline. It's well deserved, by the way. But before we continue with any more thrashing of Cam Reddish or any other stinky basketball players, the last of the major pro sports leagues kicks off this week, and BetOnline is your top spot for all your NBA action this season. With MLB postseason, NFL, and college football and NHL in full swing, BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. Get everything NBA at your fingertips with both desktop and mobile access for every sport, anytime. Head to the BetOnline app today to get in on the action. Don't forget to use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, so we will thrash Cam Reddish later in the show, but Knicks win 109 to 91, bringing their season to 2-2 in this this home and home series. We have Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle leading the way with 19 points apiece. We have Emmanuel Quickley with 18 points. We have RJ with 16, and we have Hartenstein with 13.
Did RJ not score in the second half?
I think he scored maybe once, I want to say.
I don't think
because he had like 15 at half.
So he scored a free throw.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that's it. But yeah.
Well, can we talk about the Let's start with Craig Porter Jr. What a fucking game. I mean, I think Kobe Altman might have found a couple. I don't know. I was like, are you watching Emily Bates? He might be the dumbest fucking player I've ever watched play basketball. Like, everything he did, I was just like, please do more. Please keep doing anything you're doing. This is amazing for me, because I want the Knicks to win this game. No, I mean, I would just start with, like, I don't know if the Knicks will play an easier game all year. I really don't. Like, that second half I don't think the Knicks played particularly well. I don't think they made good decisions collectively. I don't think their rebounding was all there for a long parts of it.
Like, I didn't think the effort terrible. The turnovers were bad per usual. It seems like it's going to be a trend this year.
Yeah, bad decision making, collectively. I mean, I'm not trying to even single anybody out collectively. I think were there some more guilty than others, sure, but and even amid that, they basically made one adjustment, which was just don't let Mitchell drive right. That's what they did the entire second half. They just sat there and dared him to go left, and he had nothing, and that was the game. That was it. The game was over as soon as they did that. They scored. What did they have? They had one field goal over a 6-minute stretch or something. That was a dominant victory, and it was dominant. And I think, and I understand, okay, they didn't have Garland, they didn't have Jared Allen. Well, guess what? I was told that you trade for superstars because they can win you games like this. And I'm not saying Donovan Mitchell is never capable of winning a game like this, but when you see how easily the Knicks were able to limit him, one, I think that tells you something about what I think really divides him from the true top level of perimeter scorers in the league. And also I think it was just severely, I think it just showed look, Evan Mobley can be as talented as he is, but he's still super limited offensively. He's got a long development path ahead of him on that end of the floor. And quite honestly, Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein, they bullied him again. They picked up right where they left off in April. He had no chance on the glass. He had no chance defensively. I feel like anytime he got a rebound, it was just because Mitch had to go over and challenge a shot or something.
He was by himself.
Yeah, he got dominated. And again, like the Knicks didn't even play well tonight, I don't think, as a collective unit. I would really struggle to say one person I watched that game and was like, what a complete offensive game you had today. I would really struggle to say it about one person. But that didn't matter because the Knicks, obviously they had the talent advantage today and they took advantage of it. Like I thought they were kind of fucking around in the third quarter, but once you realize that as soon as they locked in on defense, the game was over. I mean, that was that.
And I think with this Cleveland matchup, I think, are we at the point where it's like mental now at this point where like they just like know mentally, like they just have this advantage over them, and Cleveland kind of knows mentally. I think the comments from Evan Mobley before the game kind of are telling about how he's like, we really want this game and whatnot, and like, you didn't hear anything on the Knicks side because like that they know like these are their sons, like they own these guys.
I think it's more mental I think the mentality aspect actually comes into play more for the Knicks than the Cavs, in the sense of I think the Knicks just feel really comfortable playing them. Like they know that the Cavs can't take away their biggest strengths. I will say I thought the Cavs missed a lot of open shots tonight. Like, and I think that goes to Schwinn's point. Like the Knicks didn't even play that well. I did think the Knicks played like really well for like a stretch at the end of the third, and then after Tom Thibodeau called the timeout to start the fourth and got Brunson back in, that like 4-minute stretch to seal the game, I thought was really dominant.
Have you seen The Town?
Yeah.
When he's like, "This is the not fucking around crew."
Yeah.
That's like when he called that timeout, they were up 13. I sent a message in the Discord, and I was like, I would not be surprised if Brunson comes in right here. And that was like Tibbs like basically taking the timeout and just being like, this is the not fucking around crew. We are going to end this game right here. And I honestly,
I don't know about you guys. I didn't love Brunson's game. Like I
like I said, I don't think anybody played well today. I just think he knew that they needed somebody who could just like, he just basically was like, let me just get my best shot maker on the floor against their weakest lineup, and I'm going to end this game right here. And I will say though, like I thought today I was really excited because I thought this was the first time that I saw like Dante and Quickley actually have a connection on the floor. Like they had those two sequences right at the end or in the beginning of the fourth when Brunson came back in, where like Dante basically was like telling Brunson, like, get your fucking ass in the corner, go, like keep running. And because of that, the defender goes to him, clear the open space for Quickley. He buried 2 threes. But I thought
I have a theory about Quickley that I'm curious what you guys think. I don't think anybody has ever thought about him this way, but I feel like he's kind of become an inside-out player from a rhythm standpoint. Like if he comes out and he's just shooting a bunch of threes earlier, I feel like he's a lot more inconsistent and volatile. But if he gets established inside the arc, I feel like he works from inside to the out, and his comfort level shooting threes becomes a lot more reliable.
I think
it's wild seeing how like he came into the league and like
exactly
the complete opposite. I would say
the cool thing too today was he hit 2 mid-range jumpers, and that definitely seems to be like a focus for him. That not just taking floaters in mid-range, like in the mid-range area, but actually taking like mid-range jumpers. I think he's made one in every game this season so far, multiple in a couple of them. So like. Sounds very minor, but that's something where it's like his mid-range numbers are really good last year. But I think Ace Zulo, he did like a video on this earlier in the year, maybe before the season started, and he just talked about how like, yeah, his mid-range numbers look good, but if you actually just like watch all the mid-range shots he takes, a lot of them are floaters. His actual percentage on proper mid-range jump shots was not good. So to kind of see him take more of those and actually hit on them at a pretty decent level, I think is a good sign. And yeah, I mean, look, I just thought that lineup to start, I at least one thing I really appreciated with that. So it was Brunson, IQ, DiVincenzo, Hart, and then Hartenstein. We have bitched so often, and I felt this way during the first half too, about like Tibbs being weird with size when he doesn't need to be against the opponent you're playing. And that was a lineup where I think he's finally just like, fuck it, I'm putting in these 4 guys, and Hartenstein can just be big and fucking German and stuff. And he
for all the shit, we're probably not all the shit. Like nobody deserves to get shit on tonight. But I mean, Josh Hart didn't play a good game again, and I think he's had a bad start to the season. But to your point, Schwinn, the reason Tibbs felt comfortable doing that is because Hart and to a slightly lesser degree, Quickley fought their asses off on the defensive glass. They got in there and they battled.
Yeah.
And I think Tibbs thought, okay, like maybe these two, there are other areas where these two are lacking, but I can trust them on the defensive glass right now.
It's the FIBA legs for Hart.
And I think he knew like the only way Cleveland's going to win this game is sneaking possessions in and like getting hot from three. And they just basically ended that in the fourth quarter. There was none of that shit as soon as those guys came in. I think even though I didn't love Brunson's decision-making throughout, I did think he put together solid like
stretches,
2-3 minute stretch right there when we needed him to. And that was the game. I mean, it was what it is. Like this is not a game. I promise you, this is not a game that at the end of the year, however the season is, this is not going to be one of the wins. You're like, man, I just want to go back and relive that moment again. Cause as satisfying as it was to beat the shit out of them, it was just like, I mean, let's be honest. Like we've seen this before. I've seen us do this to this exact opponent before. And
I tweeted out after the game, I was like, it's getting kind of boring beating these guys' heads in a little bit now. Like, can they like put up a little bit better of a fight? Like,
I agree.
Make us sweat a little bit.
This is a more important question here from Jelly Slims. Why is him and the auntie bun?
Cause I'm about to go to sleep after this.
Jelly just doesn't know what it's like to just win big parlays every single night. You can wear whatever you want, you know. You can just this is the life.
Yeah, I think this is from Kurt. It's time to start a dialogue with Mobley. Like, I actually thought his defense is still like he still does stuff on defense. So I'm like, wow, it's very impressive. But even within that, I think whatever physical gains he's made, I would you guys say? I think it's pretty fair to say that and it's okay, he's a third-year player, but like he's still really far off physically, I think.
Yeah, I think people do need to slow down. I think there's like this, it's not even just with him, it's like with a lot of young players, there's like this urge to like fast forward or fast track their timeline and like try to project them sooner than where they actually are. And I think, it's fine if players take some time to actually develop, whether that be physically or skill wise. And for someone like Mobley, it seems to be more physical because like he just looks totally outmatched versus Mitch and Hartenstein, especially Hartenstein tonight. Hartenstein really did a really good job, I think, just like bothering him.
He was great. This is another feather in Schwinn's cap because he talked about this with two different teams. Was it last offseason, Schwinn, when the Gobert trade happened? It was last summer, yeah. And Schwinn mentioned Schwinn and the Mitchell trade happened that summer. And Schwinn talked about how like he understood the trade from Mitchell from the Cavs perspective. Like they're a little bit further along than the Knicks were, and he got it. But he did say that for both the Timberwolves and the Cavs, they were artificially expediting their young core's timeline. And he said, he was like, if I was a T-Wolves or a Cavs fan, I would be a little bit bummed because Garland and Mobley and Edwards now aren't allowed to develop naturally and have their warts. And it's now all about what they can do, what they can do at the highest level. And that's a little bit unfair to Evan Mobley and his trajectory because you're kind of hurting his trajectory.
Yeah, and I think the example people always give with this stuff is like, well, like, look at the Spurs with Kawhi. And I'm like, I don't think that's even remotely the same thing because they basically understood, like, Kawhi Leonard came in and they developed him from like, okay, they were like, you're a 3-and-D wing. And I was like, okay, we're going to give you like 2-3 possessions a game where you create. And then it was like, okay, now we're going to give you 5 or 6. And they brought him along very gradually. And when he didn't have it rolling, like they still had veteran guys to lean on, right? But I think this is a totally different scenario where it's like the Spurs also didn't give up their future to go get fucking Kawhi Leonard. They drafted him. They traded George Hill for the 15th pick. Shout out the Indiana Pacers. Thank you for not ever pairing prime Kawhi with prime PG there. But like, this is not the same thing. This is like, hey, we traded our future for Donovan Mitchell. We need to and this is why I also do not understand the reaction to them just getting destroyed by the Knicks last year, where it was like, oh, they're a young team, like first time in the playoffs, this is a good experience. I'm like, no, dude, like you don't get to. Nobody was sitting there after the Timberwolves lost in the first round and was like, wow, what a great experience for Anthony Edwards. It was like, oh my God, this trade is a disaster. And I just don't understand how, like, I'm not saying this trade is a disaster yet for Cleveland. There's a lot of season to be played left. And obviously, Darius Garland's really good. And Jared Allen, even though the brights are too light for him, he's a good player. Like, and even LeVert. Like, LeVert's a good bench player. So they have, like, they're going to be better than what we saw tonight. But they can't be, like, they need to compete. Let's be real. This is like, you have Mitchell expires in 2025, that contract. Like, sooner or later, like, he can say what he wants. I don't think anybody really believes that he loves Cleveland or loves being there. And that's okay. But, like, guess what? Like, part of the reason that they probably are not a real contender right now is that Evan Mobley is not ready for it. And Jared Allen is a limited offensive center, even though he does, apparently, according to Cavs fans, he's a really good mid-range shooter, which who cares? Takes like fucking one mid-range shot every 3 games. It just, I don't know. I stand by that, what I said at the time. Like, I thought, and I understood the trade way more for Cleveland than I did for Minnesota, but like the risks were the same. And I think, unfortunately, like they've accelerated, like you don't get to have the fun young player year, right? Like the Thunder got really good really fast. But people forget, like, they got to have, like, a couple of, like, fun, we're just a stupid young team seasons. And that's kind of, like, why that team was so fun. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, you're in the Western Conference Finals now? Like, you're in the NBA? And that just happened organically. But this felt like, wow, we have a chance to do something. Let's do it. And a lot of it, I mean, even at the time, I remember people were just talking about, like, well, this is a big bet on Mobley, right? It's like, all right, well, I don't know if he was ready for you to make that bet. Also, I do want to shout out this comment from Jason Aravalo. Forgive me if I mispronounce that. Our centers look real good at the start of the season. I agree. After that Boston game, and even in that game, Hartenstein played awesome, I thought. These last few games, they've been our most consistent guys the last 3 games. Hartenstein tonight, I don't know what was going on with him, but he the bullfighters get the red, like that. It was like, it's like, who pissed him off today and just got him seeing red? Because he took it to Mobley in a way you don't see Hartenstein do that that often.
You probably saw those.
I'm just gonna need him to be a little bit better on the short roll when Quickley throws a left-handed pocket pass like that we never get to see as Knicks fans ever. Like, fucking finish, dude. Like, make that or kick it out or do something good, because I want to be able to clip that and be like, wow, what a pocket pass. But no, now I have to just ignore it on my rewatch.
Well, you can still highlight it. Just be like, can you not take a really dumb float? Like, that was the worst floater I think he's taken ever.
His touch was really nice tonight, though, by the way.
Yeah, it was. And that's why I was like, what is going on with this floater you just said? But no, he was awesome tonight. Him and Mitch, like, the funniest thing I could say about Mitch's performance is I thought it was really funny. He didn't like jump a lot, and he was still able to totally command the defense and the defensive glass. He was just like very in control. I thought both them played excellent, and Hartenstein that second half was so like ready to play Evan Mobley. He was definitely ready for that matchup today.
Where Mitch really showed out was defense, and like the fact that he only had 1 steal and 0 blocks. It doesn't.
A lot of
close.
deflections.
It does not come close to identifying his impact or to capturing his impact, because he was everywhere with his arms. He was in every passing lane. It was a really, really good performance by him defensively, and it was just an excellent defensive performance from IQ. That is one of the reasons I'm most excited to watch this game, because he just had so many, like, just him off the ball is just, it's a joy to watch, and I hope we get to watch it for a lot longer, because they're just like, if you want to watch NBA basketball smarter, just watch the possessions where Quickley kind of comes from out of nowhere, comes out of nowhere, and he's like they would have a corner 3 or they would have a layup if he doesn't stunt there. Those aren't just like, I know they're coached to do that, but pay attention to how that very infrequently happens when other people are in those spots or on the court.
Well, even Grimes is a good defender. He's a better on-ball defender than Quickley is. But you see this stuff off ball with him where like he's not as locked in as a guy like Quickley is. I
Well,
think
watch
Hart
this.
is actually similar to Quickley in the sense that I think he's a better off-ball guy than on-ball. But even then, he can sometimes get caught like cheating down or trying to crash the glass a little too early. Like in terms of just timing of rotations, I think Quickley is honestly one of the best I've ever seen. When I saw him live when I went to a Knicks game last year and I watched his I was like, I don't care what anybody says. The fact that guys shoot way worse on him actually makes sense because his closeouts and his contests on them are honestly amazing. He had one today on Strus that he had absolutely no business running him off the line. I have no idea how he managed to do it, but it was an incredible one. I do want to talk a little bit about Brunson and Randle, more so Randle than Brunson. I still just feel like I'm just gonna give Brunson the benefit of the doubt and be like, I think he really needed to see the ball go in from mid
FIBA
range.
legs, as
I
Austin
don't
Reeves.
What a fucking it's like, dude. You can just be like, I'm not playing well to start the year. It's fine. I don't need to hear about fucking FIBA legs. You're like 9 years old. Shut the fuck up. No, I think Brunson really desperately needed to see the mid range stuff go down that he did today, or that did today. I still feel like I don't know what it is with that starting lineup. Their chemistry right now just seems really off. They're even more so than usual. I know I got a lot of responses like, well, I was saying how ISO heavy they were, and a lot of people being like, well, that's how the Knicks offense is. And I'm like, dude, I get that. But even adjusting
It's
for
more ISO heavy than usual.
yeah, this was just it was crazy, especially that third quarter. I was like, what am I watching right now? But Brunson, I feel like it's a matter of time before he's comfortable, and then because he's comfortable, he will just start making better decisions. Randle is, I don't know, I'm not super concerned yet, but I am. I don't know. I don't know if you listened to the pod that we dropped. Was it today? I think it dropped this morning. But I talked about this, and I talked about this a little bit, where I think it feels like Randle's trying to adapt his game to be more of a playmaker early in the game. And I don't know what it is. It feels like he's out of rhythm because of it a lot of times. And he's hunting for a shot. I mean, in the second half, he had a bunch of takes where I'm like, he had one on a fast break that actually really annoyed me because he caught the ball. Brunson fed him at the rim. 3 caps converged. He clearly had a pass to Quickley in the corner for a 3. And instead of just making that pass, he tried to go at Evan Mobley. I think he might have gotten stuffed or stripped or whatever. But it's one of those where, and I know it's kind of bullshit to be like, well, it's okay when Brunson forces it, but when Randle forces it, I have a problem. But I do think inherently there's a little bit less inherent.
Brunson's on the leeway. He's on the
yeah,
leeway.
I just think there's a lot less.
He's performed at the biggest stage as well. Whereas Randle has yet to prove himself in those moments. So you just have that inherent trust.
He did have some really terrible defensive rebounding efforts today, which also need to be highlighted.
I do kind of have
Throwback.
a theory about Brunson. I think part of the issue is that the Knicks, at least early, I would say less so in this game, but in the first 3 games, is that the Knicks are trying to infuse a more team style basketball, which has led to higher. That's why we're seeing more turnovers. But Brunson is coming off a season where his main style of basketball is this one-on-one style that is clearly best for him. So we're kind of having a diverting path here of what's best for Brunson and what the Knicks maybe think is best for the team. And I think that could be kind of affecting Brunson negatively because he obviously is a team guy and he's not I don't think he's going in there no, fuck it. I'm just going to get mine. I think he wants to do what's best for the team too, but he just had this great season playing a certain way, this great playoff run. And now all of a sudden it's just I just feel like mentally that's kind of messing with him, he's trying not to be as one-on-one heavy.
He still sketches, man. He sketches, man. He's a lot of things right now. But I do agree with Jeff
sorry,
saying.
go ahead.
I do agree with Jeff saying. I could see that issue. Hopefully it's something that resolves over the course of these early games. It doesn't help that I think that because our schedule is I don't know, do you guys think our schedule's a little bit rough? Because like there's like a lot of back-to-backs, there's a lot of road games. It's our schedule to start the season is pretty insane.
Let's put it this way. If the Knicks get to play this same Cavs team tomorrow, this would be a great time for them to not play with their food. Because like I think you have if they play the same Cavs lineup again tomorrow, like you have the opportunity to basically, I mean, you're on the cusp of basically winning the season series against a presumed rival for seeding right here in the second week of the season. And I think, when the schedule opened, you would have been like, if the Knicks can get a split here, you take that, right? Like, obviously, a split back-to-back against the same team, that's always one that you're just like, you'll take that right there. But they've got a shot here to win that. And then, like, I know Jeff watched the Bucks game yesterday. I've watched the Bucks a few times. I'm not there. They're going to win enough games to kind of like, while they figure their shit out, just because they have Giannis and Dame. But like, this is the best time to catch that team. This is the absolute best time to catch that team. So as rough as the schedule has looked on paper, and I think it is rough for sure. This is an opportunity to kind of steal and just steal some wins that maybe you wouldn't have expected to win when the schedule came out. So like, if you can win tomorrow, especially, but like, let's say you win the next two, you're going to be 4-2 at a point in the schedule where, like, if I had told you before the season we start 2-4, you probably been like, that's annoying, but it's fine. I get it. Like, rough start. Yeah. So the Knicks have a chance to kind of come out ahead, even though the schedule makers fuck them. To go back to what you were talking about with Brunson, I do think that, and so this is the weirdest thing with Tibbs. If you go back basically to 2021-22, if you go back to the start of last year and you go back to the start of this year, every single year the Knicks have started out trying to play faster, trying to get the ball moving. And at some point, Tibbs is like, I don't like how crazy this game feels, like fucking ping pong to me. I don't want to watch this. Like, we need to control every possession. And he reverts back to just like pound the rock, ISO, run pick and rolls, mismatch hunt, whatever. Like it reverts to that. So I will believe the ball movement, all that stuff when I see it. I will say, I do think today was the first time I thought the bench, especially specifically, I'm talking about the bench. I'm not talking about RJ with them or Brunson with them, that I felt like the bench felt like they were gelling a little bit more cohesively. It still wasn't perfect or anything like that, but I think you saw some good signs today. And like, look, we've definitely been critical of Hart to start this year, and he hasn't started the year well. And I don't think he played a very good game today either, but this is probably the best game he's played this season. Like, I think so. Like, I think so. And he looked closer today than he has previously in terms, to me, of just like how he's moving athletically. I think he moved better today than he had.
He looked better
earlier.
crashing the glass.
Yeah, crashing the glass. And just like some of his, when he was driving, I thought even when he looked out of control, his out of controlledness was more under control than it has been. But yeah, I just thought he looked better today. That helps the group. And I felt like DiVincenzo is kind of figuring out where his opportunities are, when he can look to push, when he should try to, actually try to do something in the half court. And again, like, I just thought he had a couple of really nice sequences with Quickley where you're like, those are the kind of, like when you have a good connection with somebody, like where he just kind of, he understood very intuitively what he needed, like directing somebody to get an open shot for somebody else. And I just thought that was like really smart play. And it's kind of the thing that Villanova guys, like, look, Brunson and Hart have made their fair share of, you're like, are you sure you went to Villanova plays? But DiVincenzo today played, he made some of those plays and you're like, oh yeah, Villanova guy. He had a steal too in the fourth quarter that was fucking awesome. And he saved it underneath our hoop. But it was like, I think he recovered on the pick and roll, and they tried. I think it would have been the greatest player ever, Craig Porter Jr., who tried to thread the needle to Mobley. But yeah, he like recovered and stole it. It was a really, really good play. But you're seeing like all the stuff with him that I think, the rebounding, the shooting will get there in terms of understanding when he should pull the trigger, his willingness to pull the trigger, and the defense. Like, I mean, we talked about all summer, but like I've been probably even more happy with the defense than I could have expected this early in the season. I'm very pleased with what I've seen from him defensively.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got great like activity with his hands, both in passing lanes and on the ball. He's just very disruptive. He's surprisingly like stout in terms of he doesn't get pushed around in the mid post even by bigger defenders, which is nice. And he's a good defender, which is a good defensive rebounder, which is a part of defense, is preventing the other team from getting the ball off misses. Yeah, I mean, you talked about it on your pod today, Schwinn. The defense won't be an issue. It's Hart, DiVincenzo, Quickley, and RJ. And Hardenstein, I mean, he had a turnover today that I thought was going to send Tibbs, up the wall. I mean, there's nothing funnier than Hardenstein's got the turnover. They call timeout, go to commercial.
Fucking Christ.
You know Mitch is back out on the court. Like, you just know it. And they cut back from commercial and Mitch is just back out there. But
Jokic of
yeah,
the
I
East.
mean, they need to get going offensively. They need to, gel, and that's going to take a little bit. But the defense, I mean, that lineup, and just anytime those guys are on the court, good things are going to happen defensively, and it's been nice to see.
Well, I think DiVincenzo communicates pretty well on defense from what I've seen. And even offensively, like, he doesn't know where he's supposed to be all the time right now, but you can tell he's trying to he's talking, right? He's trying to figure it out. And I think that's just such a huge part of defense. I think that's one of the reasons why Quickley is as impactful defensively as he has been, despite being an undersized guard. I don't know how he's undersized for a guard. But like, even Mitch has gotten better about that, communicating defensively. And I think when you have guys that are out there talking, it makes a huge difference just in terms of like getting guys to understand their rotations, where they're supposed to be and all that stuff. But, all in all, I would say, like, considering how poor the opponent was and at times how kind of poor the offensive approach was, I thought defensively, like, even though they had some moments of like, I don't care about defensive rebounding right now, for the most part, I thought they were good, like in terms of executing the rotations and stuff like that. Individual stuff we saw with Brunson, he had that one closeout on a Coro in the first half, but I was just like, dude, you're standing next to him. Yeah, like, you're standing next to him. Can you just put your hand up, like, please? Like, I don't know what that was, but as a whole, like, I thought this was probably, I don't want to say their most complete defensive game, because actually their defense against the Pelicans was also really good. They just couldn't make a fucking shot.
I also thought their defense against the Celtics was really good.
Yeah,
108 points against that Boston team.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I thought they played really well that night.
But yeah, it's like it's one of those things where it's like, it's easy. It would be easy to lose focus tonight. This is like a classic NBA regular season game that you're like, oh, like, we don't need to try. Like, this is stupid. Nobody's playing, and you just end up in a kind of a slugfest at the end for no reason. But their defense was, their second half defense, especially, like, you got to give Tibbs a lot of credit, because his
didn't the Cavs go like 0 for 11 over like a 3-minute stretch or something like that?
It was bad. I mean,
really
the Knicks,
bad.
Tibbs's halftime adjustments in this game, and I got to say, in general, I think his tactical adjustments defensively this year have been pretty solid through 4 games.
Yeah, and just in general, I mean, this is my favorite Tom Thibodeau 4-game stretch of like his Knicks career. Like, he's been fantastic, I think. No complaints, save not subbing Jalen Brunson out at the end of the Hawks game, but I'm one day I'll get over that. I just don't get it. I just don't understand it. But
Jeff is going to go on a insane Thibs rant very soon. Very, very soon. I'm just give it a couple games.
I'm just saying, one day that's going to cost us. Like, the no offense for defense subs, it's going to cost us. And I will just, like, all be unhinged. People will not want to watch, or they will want to watch.
No, they're going to want to watch. They love that. That's their favorite part of these shows.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like that he's actually kind of experimenting with the rotation in terms of, like, obviously he knows who the starters are, but he's trying to figure out, like, okay, do I want Randle in here more with these guys? Do I want RJ in here more with these guys? Like, when do I bring in this guy? When do I bring in that guy? like the minutes right now for everybody aren't going to be like, yeah, I would like if Quickley played more and Hart played less, but I also think he is trying. I do think he's trying to get like, I think he's like Hart needs the minutes. Like, I think he can see that his legs aren't all the way there, and he's like, he needs the minutes. He needs to feel this. Yeah, he needs to feel this shit. He didn't play it all in preseason really. Quickley's like his just general kind of endurance has always been ridiculous. So I don't know if he even.
Yeah, I think that
I think
Boston
Tibbs
game
is
last year is a testament to that.
Yeah, he'll just be like, nah, he'll be fine. He'll figure it out. And to be fair to him, like he knows what Quickley is in the exact role that he in both the roles that he will use Quickley in, right? Off ball, on ball. He knows what he is, so he doesn't need to figure anything out with him. Hart didn't play much for the Knicks last year, right? Like whether we disagreed with that, we would have been like, man, it would be nice if he played Hart more. But he didn't. And so I think it's fair to kind of be like, okay, well, see what Randle is with that bench group. How does it look when Randle's on with Hart at the 3, right? Oh, I want to play RJ at the 4 with Hart, like, or however you want to parse that. Just figuring out that rotation, which groups work together, all that stuff, I think takes a little bit of time, even if most of these dudes were here last year. Because as we talked about, like getting DiVincenzo means your lineups look a little different from what Tibbs has preferred to do in his career, right? He likes having 2 bigs on the floor at all times, and that informs a lot of his rotations consistently. This is different. So I think I've liked what I've seen from him in terms of his willingness to experiment with that. And I actually think like, look, if you ever watch a Tom Thibodeau team and you're expecting them to like play beautiful, flowing, like
Spurs level.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen.
Spurs level offense.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. But like,
there was that one preseason game a couple years ago that kind of tricked us
against the Wizards or something, right?
Yes.
But like, it's okay. Like, I think these guys are figuring out their identity, and I still think we will get that bench unit going, and they're going to be super fun once they kind of all get on the same page.
Yeah, the beginning of the year kinks are very annoying to work out.
The bench sucked at the start of last year too.
It did.
So. But also to your point,
other ways.
to what you just said, Schwen, he's now taking Brunson out earlier in the first and the third, so that and he's finishing the quarters with just Randle. And so now the minutes that Randle plays with the other 4 bench guys is almost matching the amount of time RJ plays with Hartenstein, Quickley, and DiVincenzo. And so to me, I really like that. Not because this isn't putting down either player, but I never liked the whole like, oh, we've got the starting unit and the bench unit. I like the versatility and the depth of the team. And so I didn't like that RJ was just okay, you're going to play with the bench guy. Like Brunson could play with some of the bench guys. Randle can play with some of the bench guys. And I think Tibbs is figuring that out. And honestly, some of Randle's best minutes of the season, and let's be clear, he's been pretty rough so far this season. Yeah. Some of his best minutes of the season have come in that role where he's the lone starter with 4 other bench guys. He looks a lot more comfortable out there. And like, of course, he always plays well with Quickley, but yeah, I mean, I've just really liked that development from Thibodeau. That's just another thing I think he's done really well.
I think it's because I think it's also just because like in that lineup, he has that clear-cut role of like he is the go-to guy, like he is the one that's going to be making all the decisions, whether he's going to shoot, whether he's going to pass. Whereas when he's in those lineups with Brunson and RJ, it's a little bit more difficult. There's like a pecking order sometimes, and
One small pushback, Sam, because I don't disagree. I agree with mostly with your what you're saying, but I do think he does respect Quickley and lets Quickley run the show, and RJ at least so far this season. But
this year, last year, and the year before,
this season. Different. So I think what I would say is Randle knows when it's his time to get usage. There's no second guessing it, which I think is what you're trying to say. He's not like, oh, should Brunson have this possession? He knows it's okay for him to initiate and to drive offense.
Yeah.
But I don't think he like hijacks the offense. Like I think he actually does a good job of, even though he's quote unquote the clear number 1 in that unit, of being like, okay, Quickley, like you're running the show. I trust you. Okay, RJ, we're going to run pistol. Like I actually, those are some of my favorite Randle minutes in how he approaches the game and how he processes. Like, I think he plays those minutes really well, and I've been impressed.
Yeah, I mean, I think Quickley does a better job of just like setting up Randle. Like that 3 at the end of the third quarter. I don't think Brunson makes that pass or play just because like that's not it's just not how he's kind of geared. Like he would run that play to get a mismatch for himself and cook. That's what he would do, which is fine. He's very good at that, by the way. But by the way, Jeff, I did want to say we did have a request for serial killer analogies. So
running lemonade stands.
and I think this is a good question because I'm not sure how I feel about this. Is this a good get right game for Randle? I think he definitely treated it like that. I will say, like, Randle definitely thought this is a great opportunity for him to get right.
He was
You know what this reminded me of?
Mobley.
This reminded me of, for Randle specifically, it reminded me of watching a 1 seed play the 16 seed in the NCAA tournament. Like, everything Randle did well tonight, he did it well because he was just bigger and stronger than the opponent. Like, he took Dean Wade in the low.
Really
Dean Wade's gonna have nightmares. Like, he was just he was anytime he saw Dean Wade on him, he was just throwing his shoulder into him. And like, cool. I like that he did that. I like that that was aggressive. But to Brian's question, I don't think you can view it as a get right game because this isn't like a sustainable strategy long term. That's not something you can just do against most other teams. So like, I appreciate that he and probably Tibbs, because I think Randle more than anyone is elevated by Tibbs and the coaching staff, like putting good scouting reports in his head. I appreciate that they were like, dude, no one can guard you. Just do whatever you have to do to get within 5 feet. But in terms of like getting right long term, I think we need to see him do the other stuff that made him so impactful offensively last season before we say, okay, this is a get right game.
Yeah, I mean, I just think I'm watching a player who's trying to like change. Like, it feels like he wants to play a little bit more inside this year, but I also think part of that is because he's trying to be more of a playmaker. And I don't know, like, it's really hard in the middle of this, especially right now, 4 games in the season, to say like this is bad or this is good, or like, is this him adjusting, or is he going to play like this because this is just what he will do when he's attempting to be more of a playmaker? I don't know. We need to evaluate that over time. But it is nice to see, like, when he, like, it is good that he just has matchups, and there will be other matchups like this around the league where it's just like he probably walks onto the floor and is just like, this guy is defending me? Like, really? This fucking guy looks like he can't even bench 350 17,000 times like I can. Like, no, he was an absolute monster today, and physically anyway. Didn't love the decision making all the time. I thought he was definitely forcing some shots up because he just wanted to score today, which whatever. But like, man, he's got to be one of the top 5 most physical covers in the league. There's no way anybody enjoys defending that dude for a game.
For sure. Oh my God. Oh, that's a great reference. Shout out Berlizzi, one of my favorite YouTubers out there. We got a question from El Faro over here. Why do we think he left IQ on the bench for long stretches?
I truly believe it's because he thinks there are other players that he's more worried about getting going right now. Like, I think he kind of implicitly I think when he talks about, you know, he loves Quickley and he loves what he brings to the team and blah, blah, blah. A lot of people think that's like, he's just saying that shit. And I'm like, dude, if he doesn't like him, he wouldn't say any of that. Like, we saw the shit he'd say about Obi. We saw the shit he'd say about Obi. He'd just be like, yeah, I love, you know, his fucking, you know,
motor.
Yeah, you know the stuff I love about Obi. I love the way he just stands in the corner when I tell him to stand in the corner. But like you can, I think he's definitely genuine about that, and I do think he trusts Quickley pretty significantly. But like, he needs to get Josh Hart going. I think we saw Brunson and Randle the first 2 games of this, or they had 2 really bad games in the first 3 of the season offensively. Even the Atlanta game, I know they obviously put up 122. Brunson went off from 3, and Randle almost had a triple double. But like, I did
It's
feel like
Atlanta.
I was like, well, it was also like Brunson was hot from 3, but all of his stuff when he put the ball on the floor, he did not have a very good game. And I thought Randle was like, yeah, he had whatever it was, 17, 12, and 9 or whatever. But like, it's very hard to watch that game and be like, man, what a virtuoso performance from Randle or something. It was not that. But this was them kind of maybe easing into it, getting some points up, feeling better about themselves. And I do think Tibbs is trying to get them going. I don't know about like I don't know if Tibbs cares about like the emotional side of like, I just need this. He needs to feel good about himself. But I do think Tibbs cares about like, no, I got to get Randle and Brunson going. And the only way to do it is play them 9,000 minutes. Same with Hart. I mean, Hart, he needs to get going. They really need his heartness that he has not brought to the table so far this season. Weirdly, like I don't think he's been bad. I don't think he's been bad in the sense of like he's mailing it in effort-wise or something. He just has been kind of like a half.
He doesn't look
step
himself.
slow. Yeah, seems like a half step slow with a lot of things.
I mean, my answer is gonna piss Schwinn off because I heard him rant about it in a post game a week or so ago, throwing shade at me. But
Did I?
the answer is that with the way Tibbs rotates, it's just really easy for Quickley to not play a lot of minutes. Because Quickley doesn't come in until the 3 or 4 minute mark of each half. So there's only like 16 minutes available to him in the half. And for him to play more minutes, he basically has to play a 16-minute stretch in the half because Tibbs doesn't sub a bench guy out and then sub him back in the same
And that's
half.
usually what ends up happening.
Right. Yeah, like when he's playing well, Tibbs just says, hey, yeah, play 16 straight minutes. But tonight in the first half, Quickley was 1 for 5 in the first half and had a turnover. And look, his defense was good, but his shot wasn't falling. He took a couple not so great shots, and after 9 minutes, Thibodeau wanted to get other guys back in, and he wanted to get Grimes back in. He wanted to get RJ back in. He wanted to get Brunson back in, and Quickley wasn't the guy he wanted to keep on the court. He wanted to keep Josh Hart on the court for whatever reason.
I think that was a matchup thing. And I think he did in his head, he was like, I need size on the floor for like to combat. And then that's why I think the second half rotation was different. And quite frankly, like, I mean, we'll probably continue to talk about this, but like, I still think the guy that's going to end up really on the short end of the stick when a push comes to shove is Grimes. Like, if we're going to be real about Grimes, he's not had a good start to the season. I think he's got, like, we can keep saying, like, guys got to pass to him and guys got to find him. And I agree they do. But there was that possession today. He got a kick out from Brunson. He pump fakes, gives it back to Brunson. Brunson drives again, kicks it out to him. And Grimes, he pumps again, drives. And then by that time, they call an offensive 3 seconds. And it's like, put up the fucking shot, dude. Like, your point guard passed you the ball twice.
He also had that one possession where I forgot who it was. I think he dropped like Max Strus, or was it Mitchell? He dropped Mitchell, had the open shot, and absolutely rushed the hell out of it. It's like, my guy, relax. Like, you have time.
Even the take he had to the rim in transition was like I'm happy he finished it, but it was so unconfident.
Like he was scared.
Yeah, it was so unconfident. I'm like,
look like me out there.
Like, I don't think it's a coincidence, by the way, after that that possession where he pump faked twice on a 3 and they got a 3-second violation because of it, that the next possession down, they ran something for him to get a shot in the corner. And he was like super tightly contested. And he just put it up anyway. Because I bet you Tibbs was standing there in the corner like, go ahead and fucking shoot the ball. Like, the 2 things that piss Tibbs off more than anything are pump faking on like open shots. Like, he gets so mad about that. And the other thing is defensive rebounding. The 2 things that will drive him nuts are those 2 things. I guess you could throw in a third for the tie. Turnovers. Turnovers drive him nuts.
Depends on who's throwing the turnovers, though.
No, I think it drives him nuts anyway. He just it's easier for him to call a timeout and express it when it's like Quickley or Hartenstein.
I think I'm starting to get a little worried, slightly worried, like 1-2% worried, that Grimes might just not be the personality type to want to shoot 10 threes in a game. Like, he should be shooting. Like somebody needs to be in his ear and just being like, dude, you got to shoot every time the ball touches your hands. Like
JJ Redick.
Yeah, but like, I mean, Sam, we joked about in the preseason. He spent hours with JJ Redick practicing things that were never going to matter for his NBA season. He's like, oh, coming off pin downs. Yeah, I'm way better at shooting those. Great, man.
But so this is where I actually disagree with this in the sense of like, I think if Grimes was confidently pulling on these threes he's getting and he was hitting at a consistent clip, I mean, I'm sure his percentage is still really good for the season from three. But like if he was hitting consistently, I think Tibbs would start to give a little bit more for him. I'm not saying he's going to like have like, dedicated 2-minute stretches to like, let's get Grimes going. But I do think he would mix in some
JJ Redick and Kyle Korver pin downs for him.
I do think he would run something for him. But Tibbs is the kind of coach where it's like he has to see it. You have to show him, and then he'll be like, okay, now I can give you this. Which is like why I think the stuff with Quickley a lot of times has been annoying to fans, but eventually Tibbs usually does like get there, right? He's like, okay, fine, I'll give him the ball. Oh, okay, fine. I'll use him in these type of lineups. Oh, okay, fine. I'll use him with Brunson. Like he finally gets there because Quickley like usually figures it out. And then Tibbs is like, oh, the net rating is actually really good. This is great. But like Grimes, I don't know what's going on with him right now throughout the year, but it's like, this guy,
I think it's mental.
Do you remember he had a quote during training camp where he was talking about like how the coaching staff is always telling him to keep shooting, just shoot every time. And he was like, I just got to do it. And I'm like, okay, if they're telling you this every fucking day, then you got to start doing it. Sometimes it takes guys, it can take dudes quite a bit of time though. Like if you look at the best example of this to me, look at Derek White. And I mean, I think I'm sure you guys maybe remember this from a few of their games during their run to the finals a couple years ago. But like Jeff Van Gundy talked about like he's coached him, I think, with Team USA because I think Derek White was on like the select team or whatever. Mm-hmm. He's talked about it, and he was like, he would say on the broadcast, like his coaches are like, they seem to believe in him as a shooter, as a scorer, whatever, more than he believes in himself at times. And like, even with Boston, you could see at the end of that final, when they went to the finals, like he was a basket case by the end of that series, even though he was shooting, he shot well in like the first few rounds and he just turned into a basket case. And that can happen. We've seen this with Quickley at times too, right? Where he loses confidence in his shot. And like, I mean, I think Quickley is always going to be more geared to shoot the ball than Grimes is, but like Grimes, maybe just, it might take some time. Like it took Derek White a long fucking time and he's getting coached by Greg Popovich. You know what I mean? Like, it took him a while to be as confident as he is now pulling on threes. So I think this is a process and it's early in the season. And I'm pretty sure when I did my predictions thread, I said Quentin Grimes' 3-point attempt rate would pick up like end of November, early December. I still feel pretty good about that because I think that is kind of when the team as a collective will gel, which is the question from Hawkeye 420. Looking at the schedule, how long do you all think it takes for the team to click properly? What do you guys think?
Schwinn, can I say one more thing about Grimes before we hop into this next question?
Nope, let's move on.
Yeah, go ahead. One thing that I think is hurting just the consistency of his minutes as well, to go along with everything you said, is that for some odd reason, Grimes seems least likely of any Knick player, aside from like the obvious ones like Randle, Mitch, and Hardenstein, to play out of the position that Tibbs has designed for him. So in my opinion, Grimes would have more accessible minutes if Tibbs saw him as a potential 3 next to Brunson and Quickley, for example, which is a lineup that's been proven to work, but we haven't seen in this regular season once yet. Or actually we saw it down the stretch of the Boston game. But we've seen it very limited.
And we saw this in one of our big, the game that basically clinched us a playoff seed last year was that final regular season game against the Heat. Yep. And the lineup that they closed with was like, it was quick. It was Quickley, it was Grimes, RJ, Hart. I think it was Hartenstein. It doesn't matter. One of the centers, right? And like, so even to your point, even if it's not even so much to the positions to me as much as like we haven't seen him. I feel like we've seen all the other guys in all the combinations that are available to you, basically. It might not be as many minutes as you want to see. It might not be, I like this one more than one, but I think you've seen all of the, we've not seen the Grimes at the three. Like, we haven't seen much of that at all. And the weirdest thing about that is you could argue one of the reasons the Knicks got their season together last year was how good that bench unit got, especially that trio of like when Grimes was on the bench and it was Quickley, Deuce, Grimes. Those three were awesome together. And obviously Grimes is the three in that lineup. So like, it's a little weird that he's done. So, I mean, it probably signals that like, I would guess that he was a very big proponent of them getting Josh Hart. Like he was, and I like, obviously we already knew that he loved Josh Hart, but I'm sure that he was like, we need another wing because Grimes is not a good enough rebounder. That's, I guarantee you that's the reasoning behind
but I also think this goes both ways in the sense of we saw, like I just said earlier, we saw that Tibbs wanted to close a game, the Boston game, with Brunson, Quickley, and Grimes on the court. So I reject the premise that maybe I put forward that Tibbs just refuses to play Grimes at the three. I think Grimes is just the one who really has to force Tibbs' hand, and he hasn't done it yet. And I think the second that Grimes plays a game that's good enough that allows him to play minutes with, like, Tibbs just wants him out there with Brunson and Quickley, or Brunson and DiVincenzo, or Quickley and DiVincenzo, and Grimes gets those extra minutes at small forward, I think that'll be really helpful to him, and it'll be really helpful to the team because it'll just add to our potential versatility of our lineup combinations.
Yeah, I mean, and to your point, this is a good part here by El Farrell. I'm pretty sure this is Fazil from Discord. The game hasn't slowed down for Grimes yet. Hopefully that comes with games. I agree. The game has not slowed down for him. He still looks like his feet are, I don't know if anybody watched Monday Night Football yesterday, but if you want to see what it looks like when you're nervous in the pocket, just watch Jimmy G. Like Grimes has Jimmy G feet a little bit sometimes. And I think that's why, like, I don't know why he was in such a rush to take that three after he like dropped Donovan Mitchell. I'm not even sure how he dropped him. He didn't even put the ball on the floor. Oh, is that happening? Good. Yeah. Nice. Good pro move, Quentin. But like, yeah, he's just gotta, like, to your point about taking it, you've got to play with confidence and you've got to be willing to just keep shooting. Derrick Rose has talked about this, right? I think I don't remember when it was at the start of the 2021-22 season. And obviously we know Quickley got off to like a really bad shooting start that year. And I remember they asked him about something like Quickley struggling and Grimes struggling, and if he had told them anything. And he's like, yeah, look, it sucks when you're missing shots, but you're never going to like get into a rhythm and find yourself if you don't keep shooting. You have to keep shooting. That's the only way it's going to turn around is if you keep shooting. And I feel like with Grimes, sometimes doesn't have that confidence yet where it's like, oh my God. And maybe he's justifiably feels this way where it's like, oh my God, if I miss my last one, if I miss one more, is he going to pull me? Like maybe that's in there in the back of his head. But, and like, I know people will say that this is a sign of like bad Tibbs coaching and a drawback of his. I think it's at this point, it just is. Tibbs is our coach and this is how he is. So you need to get guys that can deal with that and won't have that in the back of their head. And like we sit here, we've talked about RJ's shot selection for years now, right? But the one thing you could definitely not say about RJ, I promise you, never in his life has he been worried about like, if I miss this shot, will Tibbs take me out of the game? Probably because he's never worried about that ever in his life. He's probably never worried about like, am I going to get pulled? Or, I mean, he's probably never thought he's going to miss a shot. So that's like that's the kind of confidence you need sometimes. And Brunson obviously has that confidence. Randle, for better or worse, has that confidence. And I think Quickley, I wouldn't say he's at the level of those guys where it's like this supreme, unshakable level, but he is obviously a lot more confident offensively than Grimes is. And you can see it like more so than the shooting. I think you see when Grimes puts the ball on the floor, his handle, we heard like, oh, he's worked on it all summer. He's excited. I'm watching him like, if I was Thibodeau, I wouldn't be running fucking shit for you in a pick and roll either.
Do we think that because of the way that teams responded to how he played last year, that this is the why. This is the I can't even speak anymore. That's the reason why he's the way he is right now. Like, do we think because like teams were running him off the line last year and stuff like that, like he is just like so like timid in taking his shots, like he's only worried about just taking shots, and like that is why he's the way he is with his shooting? Do we think that's why?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Who are I like just sort of got lost in who are we talking about here?
Grimes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think that's a reason. Like, yeah, I just think my number one reason for Grimes being a bit gun shy is I just think he sees himself as more, even if it's not running pick and roll, which I agree with. I agree with Schwinn. He hasn't shown he can do. Like, there could be a bigger arsenal to the types of shots he gets, the way he gets his shots, that allows him to get into the paint every once in a while. And so in his head, he's trying to maximize the few chances he gets and show off the wide array of skills that he thinks he has.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I found myself becoming like a Tibbs sycophant this year, but like I have a hard time. Like I don't think you're doing this, but I have a hard time getting too upset with like whatever Grimes' role is when you see possessions like we saw today where I'm like, you passed up on 2-3 set up for you by your point guard. Like if you're not going to pull that, then I don't know that a coach can like trust you in this moment in time. I'm not saying forever, by the way. Just want to be very clear. At this moment in time, that you're going to get it done. And to be fair to Grimes, I also think more than Tibbs. I think his biggest thing that he struggles with is like, oh, I'm on the floor with Brunson and Randle, having that confidence to just like, even if you're like, there's a difference between being wide open and being just like in rhythm, right? He'll pull the trigger if he's wide open. When it's just a in rhythm shot, but the guy's closing out to him, that's when you see him pass up, right? And he needs to have the confidence, and maybe teammates need to give it to him, the coaches need to give it to him, as much as they can. And it's a gradual process, but he needs to have the confidence to just catch that shit and put it up. And don't worry who you're on the floor with. Don't worry if it's fucking Brunson or Randall or whatever. Like, get your shots up when you can get them up. Because I promise you one thing, you're not going to get too many of them, buddy. This is from Jordan Bubb. Mitchell Robinson had a higher usage than Quentin Grimes tonight. Robinson shot 4 of 4 on 4 putback layups. That should tell you all you need to know. Need to get him involved. I agree they need to get him involved, but I also think part of that is just on him. And like, when I see like, I don't remember who it was. I really don't. I remember listening to something, and it was kind of like when Quickley had that awesome game in his final preseason performance in his rookie year. And somebody was like, I forgot who it was again, but somebody said like the difference between Quick and Frank, it was that, I mean, great. Well, now we know there's a lot of differences between them. But like one of the differences between them, but they were like, somebody was like, sometimes you got to take your chance. Like it may not be fair. It might suck that it's one chance, but like when you get your chance, you got to take it. And then like you got to give your coach no reason or no excuse not to play you. And like, I think Quickley's done that at several points in his career where it's like, he kind of, I don't want to say he can't be denied, right? Like Tibbs has to keep playing him. He has to increase his role, whatever. Grimes has not done that yet. And certainly not offensively. And it's funny, like we've talked about this a bunch last year, but like for as much like credence as is given to Tibbs is like he's this no nonsense, if you don't play defense, you won't play for him type of coach. Like I don't think that's accurate at all. I actually think guys that play like cowards offensively piss him off way more than guys that are bad defenders. Because he'll always bet that like my defensive scheme can fix this guy defensively. Whereas I think offensively, he's just like, why wouldn't you take that open shot? And that just drives him nuts. And Grimes just has to kind of, I don't think he's in the doghouse or anything like that, but he does need to earn that trust from him. He needs to show like, hey, you can count on me that if I get a kick out with 7 seconds left, I'm not gonna, pump fake and then throw a grenade to somebody. I'm gonna take the shot. And so like that's up to him to do for sure.
I saw this other comment that we were about to address. No, not the Harden one. The schedule thing. How long do we think it's going to take for them to click? I was looking at the schedule. There is a favorable stretch, I would say, in my opinion. November 15th, we play the Hawks. November 17th, we play the Wizards. November 18th, we play the Hornets. November 20th, we play the Wolves. I feel like that's a pretty good stretch for this team to really start gaining some footing. Like those are some favorable matchups, I feel. Especially seeing the way that the Wizards perform and the way that the Hornets get killed on the glass. I just feel like those are some matchups that we should look at to maybe this team really starts to find themselves a little bit more.
You know what I find weird about just the schedule this year, or the league this year, is that, like, I guess maybe I'm more pessimistic than most people, but like there aren't too many games, in my opinion, this season where it's just like, oh yeah, that's gonna be a win. I think that was Schwinn's point when he was like, this is gonna be the easiest win the Knicks have on paper this entire season. Like the Knicks were just, there's a lot of parity in the league, and like even.
Have you seen the Wizards play?
I have, but I agree the Wizards are bad, but I'm just saying that, like, would it shock you if Kuzma and Poole come into MSG and start hitting shots? Like, I don't know.
Of course not.
Wouldn't shock me. Look, I'm not saying they shouldn't. They'll be.
You heard it here first.
They'll be 7 to 10 point favorites against the Wizards at home, but I'm just saying that there were games, years ago where it was just like, oh, okay, nice, get right, like this is a win, and I don't see too many of those on the schedule this year. I just think, honestly, I think it's a good time to have Tom Thibodeau as your head coach, because you fall asleep at the wrong stretch and you could really hurt your season. And say what you want about Tibbs, but I trust him more than just about any coach to make sure that the team is ready to play as often as they can be across an 82-game season.
I would say, looking at the schedule, 17, 18, 19. I would say after around game 16, you can even say game 20. Let's say game 20. I think that is when I would expect the Knicks to be good. By the way, we have a fucking 10-day break between December 1st and December 11th?
Yeah, the midseason tournament playoffs.
Oh, okay.
So, like, depending on if we, like, get in, we can have a game scheduled in between then.
Hopefully we don't get in. That'd be cool.
Fuck
you
that.
don't want.
I want to win, dude. Embrace it. Embrace it.
I also
you don't want the official NBA Commissioner's Cup, the first inaugural one.
I guess you also have to root for wins because they count to your regular season record, so it doesn't benefit you really. But yeah, so like, so let's call it before that December 1st draft. That's about game 19. They have a pretty brutal stretch in the middle here. I mean, at least one I think is kind of brutal. They go at Timberwolves, Heat visit them, Suns visit them, and then they get Hornets, Pistons at home, and then they have a back-to-back or a home-and-home with the Raptors, that December 1st, December 11th. But, like, I feel like that after that Suns game, which is November 26th, that is when I would start to expect them to kind of, like, if they're not clicking within the next 3 or 4 games after that, I would be pretty concerned. I think Tibbs teams generally have taken about 20 games to kind of find themselves and for him to figure some shit out and make the right adjustments. We've actually seen this each of the first 3 seasons. Like, I think what we traded for Derrick Rose and put him in the rotation 25 games in 2020, 2021. Mm-hmm. The year after that, I think he made the lineup change either after game 18 or game 19.
With Alec Burks.
Yeah, not a successful move, but we will not revisit that ever again. And then last year, obviously, we know the changes that were made.
Oh, the post games that year.
Yeah, after 10 and 13. So, like, he tends to make a move around that 20-ish game mark. I I don't know if he's going to have to at this one. It might just be a matter of him settling
Jericho
on.
Sims.
Yeah, Jericho at the 4. Jeff's favorite adjustment.
Sam, we actively decided to talk more about this team in like the most miserable stretch of Tibbs's era. Like we made the active decision. Yeah.
Well, it was it's when you're miserable, you need to like talk it out, you know.
Yeah, it's good therapy sessions.
So yeah, I would say 20-ish games in. It feels like that's
fair. And like, who do you play around then? The Raptors. Raptors are pretty.
Yeah, the Raptors are the 20th game of the season.
Yeah, they're pretty bad this year. Like they're probably gonna beat us up still, but like they're still pretty bad.
They are.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. They still play like the most fucking
juvenile delinquents ever.
It's very like just aggressive
prison.
Yeah, prison ball, like felony ball.
But the thing is that they match like, oh God, it's so annoying. They match like prison ball on defense with anytime somebody touches you, exaggerate the contact. Like Siakam flails at every
Siakam flails and screams every single time.
It's so unreal. It's like how has nobody pointed out to the league the hypocrisy of their strategies? Like I just don't get it. Like say to a ref, hey, they're bullying us on every single play. Okay, so you have to have a consistent whistle. If you're not going to call fouls there, then you can't fall for Siakam's acting. Like it's oh my God. I know they're going to play a game. I know they're going to play a game that's going to annoy the shit.
I mean, they'll probably win the season series against the Knicks again, just because they're like our bogey team. But yeah, I think that's around when I would expect them to get it going. I guess I would like to do this. What do you think? This is from Jordan Bubb. What do you think of the Harden trade in general? I thought it was a nothing burger because it'll get them extra wins in regular season for the Clippers, but can it work in the postseason? I kind of think they had to do it. Like, I don't know what they were going to do otherwise. And if you weren't going to blow it up, then I don't know how you could convince yourself that if you stood pat, that team was a contender. I don't know if this makes them a contender, but I think they needed, if you once you decide to keep Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, you had to do something. And you mean, look, I would have done the Drew trade rather than them. I would have traded both first that they had available to trade to get Drew. I think that would have been a better move, but they didn't. Harden's the guy they've clearly kind of had an eye on, and they did get it done. But like, yeah, I don't know. I think the original sin is still throwing bad money after good in this instance.
I think it for them, it's like Sean said, they had to do it. I think the best part about it is that they were able to keep guys like Mann and Powell for some sort of depth, whatever they have left. I mean, they kind of just go 10 deep at this point, which I think is pretty standard. So it's like I saw a bunch of people saying like, oh, what's going to happen if Kawhi and Paul George go down? Well, I mean, it's going to be the same thing regardless. I mean, like, was Covington and Batum really going to make the difference if those guys went down and they were still there? Like, I just don't see it. Like, if you're going to have those guys, you have to go all in, and you have to push all your chips in.
That's such a great point, Sam, and I feel like it's something that doesn't get talked about nearly enough. And I think Rob Pelinka's done an excellent job of rebounding from the disastrous Russ trade back in 2021. But the whole reason for the Russ trade, like people forget that the Lakers won the title in 2020. And then probably were betting favorites against a really good Suns team that could have titled up 2-1 before Anthony Davis got hurt. And they had a great core like that they could have kept. They could have kept around LeBron and Davis. Like it was basically a better version of the core they have right now. Like they had Kuzma, they had Caruso, they had Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Like they had a really good core. And they basically just gave it all away for Russell Westbrook. And the whole logic behind it was, well, what if LeBron or AD get hurt? I got news for you. If LeBron or AD get hurt, you're fucked. Like you're not winning because Russell Westbrook is on the team now. So building for those scenarios is irrelevant. Just build for the scenarios where LeBron and AD are healthy and playing well. They had a really good team under that paradigm. Keep that team. Same goes for this Clippers team. I actually don't think the Clippers gave away that much depth. I think they're fine. I'm not saying the Sixers did a bad job. I'm going to wait and see what Morey has in store next. I also think that the pick they got is going to end up an incredibly valuable pick. Not that the Sixers fans really care about that because they want Joel Embiid to win a championship in Philadelphia. So I think the Clippers had to make the trade. I think it was a good trade for them. I don't think they're going to win the championship. I just don't. Harden actually played fine in the playoffs last year. People forget that he won a game in Boston without Embiid. Like, I don't get why Embiid is the one who keeps getting the passes and Harden's earned his feathers as like a playoff underachiever. That's fine. But he was good in the playoffs last year, and he was not the reason they lost in 7 games against Philadelphia, in my opinion. So anyways.
Can I just read this real quick? Totally
Yeah,
unrelated to this. When Tristan Thompson addressed the media yesterday, he shut down any rebounding comparisons between himself and Josh Hart, saying, "Me and Josh Hart, rebounding-wise, no, that's like a filet and a sirloin steak." After the Knicks' blowout win over Thompson and the Cavaliers, Josh Hart was asked about the Cavs using their round 1 loss as motivation for tonight's game. "We don't really care. We're just sirloin steaks." Good stuff, Josh. Good stuff, Josh Hart. Sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
I don't know why that Kardashian sex toy keeps talking like he's a good basketball player.
The Kardashian sex toy.
Maybe the most disgusting.
That's pretty good, Sam.
Such a gross sounding description of a human being. Yeah, no, so you were saying, but like the only thing though is like the Harden thing is, yeah, if you just zoom out and look at the numbers, they're fine. You got to go game by game in that series, though. And then, like, he just fucking no-shows game 6 and 7. And at the end of the day, like, this is just every fucking, like, anytime this guy's on the precipice of something, he has some crazy meltdown. And at some point, if it fucking keeps happening, it's not luck. And I don't want to hear about how you're the greatest scorer of all time. Fuck off. Like, you're not. You are a fucking shit stain on the sport of basketball. And I hate everything about how he's played the game. And I hope him no success. But I do hope that he enjoys being home in LA because everybody deserves to enjoy life. Other than the Miami Heat.
Including shit stains on the sport of basketball.
What about Al Horford? What about Al Horford?
Al Horford is not a human being.
Schwinn, my dad saw me browsing Twitter. Like, so I watch Wednesday games at a bar because I do this like trivia night thing. So whatever, we were at a bar and my dad saw me browsing Twitter for the Hawks game. And oh wait, no, the Hawks game wasn't Wednesday. I was at the same bar because those games were blacked out. So I'm browsing Twitter, and you tweeted, if one more Nick pump fakes on a 3, I'm gonna like commit whatever that word is. You're gonna lose it. And my dad was like, "Oh my god, who is that? I'm gonna do the same thing. I can't stand this." And he doesn't like. I doubt he knows what you were talking, like what that word was, but he was just like so on board. And so now every single time the Knicks pass on a 3, he's like, "Jeffrey, tell that Schwinn guy. I'm with him. We're like, we got to do something about this."
I said that we should all take a shot. We should play a drinking game where every time somebody fakes, we take a shot. I mean, we would have fucking died.
Yeah.
Would have been fun, but we would have died.
Take a shot for that, and take a shot every time DiVincenzo misses a layup.
Oh God, no, Jesus! At least he didn't take one today, right? So that's good. Yeah, I think the one angle about this trade that I think is really funny is I kept seeing all of this like, oh, like Philly's in such a good position now. They restocked the asset war chest or whatever. And I'm like, how is it that when every other team gets some type of protected dog shit first, it's this asset that has real
in
value?
Their war chest.
Yeah. And then when we do it, it's like, oh, well, the Knicks have these 4 protected first, but actually none of them count because fucking Leon Rose doesn't talk to the media. I'm like, is that all correlated? Like, are those things correlated? But no, I just that part of it was so infuriating. So I'm like, he effectively, if you really think about this, Daryl Morey he wasted 2 years with Harden only to end back ultimately with basically the same lineup more or less that they had before that, and with like worse assets. So, like, credit for drafting Maxey, you get credit for that. And I did like the Melton trade, but like some of the stuff with him, I'm like, look, I actually think their team is going to be pretty solid this year, and just getting guys that can play basketball works in a lot of ways. If you have Joel Embiid and
Marcus
Maxey,
Morris.
yeah, except Marcus. Well, he's not going to play. And like Tyrese Maxey, if the leap he's making is really a leap or if it's just a blip, we'll see. But like, there's no world where this team is a contender right now. And I'm sorry, like, oh, he could go get Zach LaVine now. I'm like, okay. Like,
ooh.
Like
I would rather have OG for them, honestly.
I agree.
As crazy as that sounds.
Well, look, I know that they have the space now where they could theoretically be able to get both in the offseason. They have the type of space where it's possible for that to be with no realm of possibility. But like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know why we keep assuming that like Daryl Morey is gonna make it happen, because all he's really done in Philly is like bring back a bunch of dudes from Houston who he had to salary dump basically in a year.
Schwinn, did you know that Ivan Rodriguez, Pudge, and David Ortiz are both Hall of Famers?
Ivan Rodriguez and David Ortiz?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Do you know why they're both Hall of Famers while Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds aren't Hall of Famers, despite all four doing steroids? Because two danced for the media and two didn't. The media's already made their hand very clear. Like, I don't get why they still get any respect at all. If you dance for them, if you give them the access that they think they're entitled to deserve, they will forever fillet you. They will. And if you're Leon Rose and you play this game, he is basically like not in quality. He is basically Barry Bonds right now. Like, Barry Bonds was the worst guy to deal with by the media. They hated him, and Bonds was like, whatever, fuck it, I'm too good. I'll just keep being too good. And it cost him a Hall of Fame berth. It's ridiculous that he's on the Hall of Fame, but whatever, I digress. It's ridiculous that people won't give Leon Rose his flowers or whatever, while consistently talking about Masai, Morey, these people who have been fucking up for years. And it's just like, oh yeah, okay. So, it's just obvious.
If we're going to and if you're just boiling it down to like simple stuff, Leon Rose he did not inherit an MVP player. He did not inherit that. He's, whatever it is, he's had the same fucking level of success that Daryl Morey has had. The high watermark of what the Knicks have achieved is the same high watermark that the Philadelphia Sixers have achieved under Daryl Morey.
That's wild to think about. That's wild. Like, when you actually sit back and think about it.
And I actually think, like, I loved the Melton trade when they made it. I love it even more now. Obviously, Melton's awesome. But, like, that's his best move. That is his best move. And, like, maybe his second best move will be signing Kelly Oubre to the minimum. I don't agree, because I think if you suck playing with Steph Curry, you just suck at basketball. But for right now, at the vet minimum, and look, at the vet minimum, it's probably worth it, right? Kelly Oubre at the vet min, fine. But like, if those are your big moves, those are your best moves, unequivocal best moves, I don't know what to tell you. Like, and yeah, you could tell me the Harden move was good in real time, and Ben Simmons sucks and blah blah blah. Sure, but like,
nah, man, Ben's bad. That trade's gonna look bad. Ben's back. Ben's back.
Yeah, did he have 8 points yesterday? He's back.
Dude, he had like 8, 10, and 11. I wasn't joking. I actually think he's kind of back.
I think he's back when he doesn't play with Nick Claxton, which is a funny thing.
Yes, great point. Yeah, he does he needs the 4+1.
Yeah, but like, yeah, I don't know. I think that trade is kind of, to me, like, okay, cool. Like, if any, the big winner of that trade is Tyrese Maxey, because Tyrese Maxey can now just move on with his life and not have to worry about what if James Harden comes back.
And probably start thinking about, hey, maybe I'm having an all-star berth this year.
This is from JK. Did Morey draft Maxey? Yes, he did. So those are the 3 good things he did: draft Maxey, trade for Melton, and if you want to throw it in there, sign
Kelly Oubre.
Sign Kelly Oubre for the minimum.
My favorite thing is on Twitter when Kelly Oubre is having a good game. Everyone's like, God, how did the Sixers get him for this much? Oh my God, is Kelly Oubre always been this good? And everyone's like, yeah.
He's
And I'm
always
like-
been this good. Trust me. Just ask
And I'm
him.
like, oh, guys, just wait till you guys get the full Kelly Oubre experience.
The human,
Yeah, I mean, look-
human biases are like crazy. Like the Derrick Rose Barstool thing is just like another example. And there's so many.
By the way, he's
so
out
His knees are
tomorrow.
fried.
He's already out tomorrow with knee soreness.
His knees are
So
fried.
yeah,
They played him.
he has no juice left. He can't sustain it. We saw this We saw this the last 2 years.
Wait,
which is why
what do
it was
you
so
mean
funny.
sustain? What he's been bad this year.
No. What I'm saying is,
Sustained
like, he had a
playing.
couple of nice performances in preseason, right? Like whatever
That's
it was.
fine, but he's been awful in the regular
Right.
season. That post was bullshit.
No,
that makes me so mad.
I'm agreeing with you. What I'm saying is, like, they posted that after he had one decent game. It was like 16 points on 14 shots that he put up, right? And like, I was like, I don't care about this because I know no matter how, like, if he plays 3 good games, 5 good games, 7 good games, 10 good games, I know at the end of it, it's what my man says in Doctor Strange. The bill comes due. The bill comes due. Like,
Shout
his
out
body
Mordo.
cannot, or to reference Top Gun, what does he say? Like, your body's writing, like, you're writing checks that your body can't cash. Like, that's what it is.
Your mouth's writing checks that your body can't cash.
Yeah, that's what it is. But like, he can't. I knew it did. I was like, it didn't matter to me. I was like, he could have dropped like 90 in a preseason game without any misses, and I'd have been like, yeah, that's cool, dude. Within like a month, this guy's gonna be done. He's done. And it is what it is. So like, we saw this the last 2 years, right? He'd start off, he'd be like, oh, look, he looks like he still has juice, and by the end of like whatever that stretch is, he's just like can't move. He's like a zombie, and then he's out for the rest of the season, basically. So, yeah. I will say, I think the other that, like, if you want to say which team won this Harden trade, kind of like this trade for OKC. I did like them getting that swap. I'm like, I think I'd rather have the swap. They've got interesting swaps.
Do you remember what you said to end the podcast, today's podcast, about Kelly Oubre? Stacey was like trying to drag it out a little bit longer, and he was like, let's talk Kelly Oubre. Do you remember what your response was?
I don't know. I think I might have said I don't ever want to talk.
You were like, he was like, so does Kelly Oubre interest you? And you were like, no, fuck that guy. He could average 50-point triple-double for a whole season, and I'd still tell him he sucks.
I'm just he like, I have one simple test. There's one simple test where, like, the one thing that you can't do and expect me to respect you as a basketball player at the NBA level is if you lose your minutes with Steph Curry. If you lose minutes with Steph Curry, you're a bad basketball player. I don't want to hear it.
Speaking of the Warriors, by the way, before we get to this comment, I think they're my title favorites right now if they stay healthy. And I think they're my title favorites. I think they're my title favorites because Chris Paul is actually holding the non-Steph Curry minutes afloat. Like they don't need anything else from Chris Paul. They don't need him to be a Hall of Famer. They just need someone to organize the team and not get completely blitzed when Steph Curry's off the court. And he has done a phenomenal job of that through 4 games. And like, if the Warriors can have their starting 5, which is going to destroy every opponent, we've seen it for years now, and a bench that doesn't give it back, like, they're gonna win a championship, in my opinion.
I think they need to make one move, but I really want them to go get Robert Williams. If they get Robert Williams, I think they are like, they have every kind of player type, player profile, whatever you want to call it, that you need. And I do think Looney is looking a little bit more washed than he has in the past this year. But like, if they can get Robert Williams, and if he's healthy when they need him to be healthy, which is a big if, obviously, both of those, I would tend to agree with you. And I do like what I've seen from Kuminga and Moody. I think they give them kind of athleticism that they need. And Moody's a really good rebounder. If Kuminga can just kind of, like, he seems focused this year in a way that I don't think he was last year, which has been good to see. And Kerr kind of has to lean on him this year. So
but really in a weird way, because I know Steph Curry is like the ultimate elevator. He elevates you in like a way where you still have to do it on your own, if that makes sense. Like, he's a good passer. I'm not saying Steph's a bad passer, but he's not like I'm going to run pick and roll and I'm going to put you in the exact spot where you can succeed. So in a way, right? Chris Paul is like a better Chris Paul is a better point guard to have with Moody and Kuminga in terms of like getting them to more consistent, higher floor performances and getting that version of them. So I think that was another reason that move was just brilliant for them.
So the way it is like Steph opens up options that are the most like valuable options available to you as a player, but you need to be like a pretty skilled player to take advantage of those things, which is why like Draymond just absolutely monstrous when he plays with Steph, because it's like once you give Draymond a numbers advantage going downhill, he will pick you apart. If you do that with Kuminga might look like Mobley, where he's like, I don't know, what am I gonna do? Like, I can't. I have to pass here. And like with Chris Paul is not going to open up this kind of like the whole floor for you in the way that Steph possibly can. But he'll give. It's like you have two options, right? It's like, okay, pick and pop, pick and roll, and that's about it. You have two options. It makes it very fucking simple. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing with them is, and honestly with Boston too, unfortunately, is like those teams are the two teams that I think are in the contender level that still have the assets and the scope to make more trades in season and add to their kind of like roster. So that's the big thing for me why I like both those teams. But I do like Golden State in the West. The only thing is I will say, man, that Nuggets starting lineup, I know their bench is not good, but that starting lineup
is OP.
Yeah, it is. They're monsters.
They have crazy chemistry together too.
The reason that Denver Golden State would be an amazing series for a number of reasons. The discourse about Jokic's defense would end up annoying me just because, like, oh man, his defense has almost become like underrated. Like he's not a good defender, but like with how good his hands are, his defense isn't as bad as people think it is. And Steph just is like the ultimate. I know how to exploit Jokic. Jesus. Steph is like the ultimate, like he can just exploit Jokic, the things Jokic does worse defensively. And the Nuggets are kind of well equipped to stop the Warriors' main offense already. So Curry is going to be like, oh yeah, let's just run a bunch of pick and roll with Steph Curry, and Jokic can't do anything about it. Like, so, but yeah, that series would be amazing. And I do agree that Denver could beat Golden State just because of how potent their starting five is.
Yeah, Jokic also good at basketball, good player. He's another guy, by the way. If you lose your Jokic minutes, you're out of here, bro. Like if he makes Michael Porter Jr. Let me tell you, Michael Porter Jr. should thank his lucky stars he gets with Nikola Jokic.
What about Schwinn, the guy that what was the quote? It was, this is who y'all think Emmanuel Quickley is. What about him? He did well with Jokic. Bones.
Yeah, that was when I immediately was like, not too sure about this guy.
The Nuggets hate him.
I'm telling you, they're the two players in the league that I've determined that if you suck with them, I'm out on you, are Steph and Jokic. You just can't do it. All right, this one is from Prashanta Adhikari. Trading Harden for this stuff is what a tanking team would do. They didn't get a single tangible player that moves the needle this year. I mean, I guess the argument I've kept seeing is like, well, they'll make a move, right? And I'm like, okay, thanks. And I'm like, okay, but like, who? And it's like, okay, if it is Zach LaVine, right? If that's the big needle,
it's gonna be someone from the Bulls.
Yeah, like I don't know. Like, I mean, I like LaVine. I think he's a good player, but is that? Yeah, like you're better than Boston now? I don't think so. You're better than Milwaukee? I don't know. I mean, I've yet to see Joel Embiid play like a functional human being in the second round. So I'll have to hold out for saying that. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think this trade return is that good. And also, like, can we just talk about how 2 weeks ago it was like, oh, Daryl Morey will not do this trade without Terrence Mann. He has to have Terrence Mann or else he won't do this trade. And then he fucking did the trade without Terrence Mann because the Harden situation was so untenable. Also, like, as much as I hate James Harden, his ability to get everything he wants is pretty amazing.
It's unrivaled. Like, it's just every year. It's basically Like it's like if the Tobias from Arrested Development meme, but they just did it over and over again for the same episode. Like 4 different teams have been like, well, it didn't work for them, but let's trade more stuff for James Harden and see if it works out. And he just keeps getting to play where he wants to play. It's wild.
Shout out to him.
Jalen Suggs is so awesome. Like holy shit.
Tibbs probably would like. Tibbs would love him.
He really would love him.
He'd be like, he might like fall out of love with Josh Hart though. That would be sad. What do you think about this one? It's from Dirty Dancer. Is Zach or DeMar really that much better than Tobias? I don't think so.
I think Zach is. I don't think DeMar is.
Zach is, but I do think Tobias does something. Like finding a 4 is not that easy. Like, especially for what they need next to Embiid. And I think Tobias has a lot of value. People have gotten so confused with like Tobias's contract versus Tobias Harris, the actual player. Tobias Harris, the player, is a good player. He's going to be a player. He's not Zach LaVine, but I also think like, what are you going to do? Try to get Pat Williams in the deal so he can give you 7 and 2 or whatever the fuck he does. I don't know. It's tough. And they did give up Tucker in this trade, which like I'm sure they wanted to do financially, but I do think that's like a kind of an underrated loss, at least in terms of the regular season, just getting bodies. I know they got Covington back in this deal, right? And Batum can still play a little bit. I still tend to think Covington's probably washed. I don't know.
And to your point, Tobias has also proven that he can create his impact as very, very firmly the 3rd or 4th option, which is an underrated thing. Like people just think it's not NBA 2K. You sign Zach LaVine. This has an effect on either LaVine's role, on Maxi's role, on Embiid's role.
For all
we know. So to your point, Schwinn, if 100% of Tobias Harris means still getting the absolute ceiling from both Maxi and Embiid, whereas 100% of Zach LaVine infringes on the ceilings of Maxi and Embiid because LaVine needs the ball in his hands, it's actually possible that Tobias Harris would be a bigger positive for the Sixers than Zach LaVine. I still don't think so, but I would be open to that idea, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's also like, again, it depends on what the rest of the roster looks like and blah, blah, blah. I will, like, I do think like he had to do something that the Harden thing was just not tenable. I just kind of struggled to give him too much credit where I'm like, all right, so you made a trade that you were forced to make and you got a middling return to be to be kind of like quite frank about it. But, I think you're seeing these markets for some of these stars, especially older stars, come down from what they were. That Durant trade was like the high water mark of this stuff, right? Where you're like, oh, got to give up everything and we give up Bridges and Cam Johnson too. And it's like, I mean, we'll see. Maybe the Suns, maybe they surprise me and win it all. I don't think so, but
not with that hospital duo.
Yeah, maybe we'll get to see Bradley Beal play basketball at some point this year. That'll be cool.
Dude, his back, it sounds like it's so bad. Like they're saying like he can barely walk and stuff like that. And like his shooting motion looks weird and stuff. Like
why do they haven't they been listing him day to day?
They said like now he has no timetable to return. Him and Devin Booker, they both have no timetable to return.
Awesome. They should just keep.
That's a disaster right there. Yeah.
You're putting a lot. This is like what happened to KD in Brooklyn, right? When like
he was by himself with Jeff Green and whoever else was there, Bruce Brown.
Yeah, and it was awesome, but you're also like, yeah, you're gonna like get injured for sure.
You're gonna get gassed, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I get it. Like I get why obviously the Sixers did it, but I just struggle to like praise them too much for making a trade that. I mean, it was there, but. Of course, Presti found a way to get in on a trade that had draft picks. He's like, I got to do this. Guys, how can I help? How can I help you make this trade?
Oh, my goodness. All right. I think this is a good place to end as we will be back tomorrow talking more Cavs Knicks as we probably beat the shit out of the Cavs again. Shout out to everyone that joined us. Shout out to all the comments, keeping the conversation going. Make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe. We are on our way to 1K subs. All that you do does definitely help us out. Check out all the links in the description. We got links to the site, merch, Patreon, and Twitter. Make sure you're following us there and get access to Patreon, so that way you can get access to all the wonderful extra content, including Schwinn's show, Strick and Roll, as well as Jeff's NFL show with Khan, Strictly NFL. So if you want to get some extra access to more content from yours truly, then definitely check that out. We'll be back tomorrow. So see you guys tomorrow. Peace.